Now, y'all, we know that at the end of this last episode, episode 2, that Tonia had taken Tonka. She got a whole enclosure built down in her basement, a small one at that, but she stole that damn chimp. And Tanya, at the end of the day, belongs under the jail.
Only apply that. Get it, don't be timid when you ain't apply that. Love a bone, give along, leave it. I don't want no trip, baby, spend like
My name is Ashley, and this is My Sweet Perspective, where I give my take on all things TV and movie related, and I am here to put you on, okay? As we are back to talk Chimp Crazy, Season 1, Episode 3, Headshot. Listen, I can't. We're not going to play with Tanya. We are not going to play with Tanya. That's what we're not going to do, because she's unhinged. Everything that she has done up to this point is some really nasty work, y'all. But let's get into it. So Tanya says that the reason she absconded with the chimp was because Tonka wouldn't make it, right? He is suffering from congestive heart failure, and he wouldn't have survived the tranquilizer and transport to the preserve, right? That she is going to spirit him away. And listen, this was a whole network thing that she did. She said, I took multiple routes. There was no way that they were going to be able to trace me. And she found this man, Cy Viestra, honey. And Cy, not only does he take in chimps, okay, he takes in your money, all right? And I don't know how he's presently not under the jail, because they said that he stole $340,000 buying online auctions. Y'all, how in the world? And so he said that because of that, a lot of people in this space don't trust him. A lot of people in general, hell, I wouldn't trust you either, sir. You stole all that town's money. Okay. And so she is basically like, no one would ever suspect that I knew him. And he had the space for the chimps, right? He has a private collection in Ohio, and Tonka was there for the first 6 months. And I'm assuming this is until she could build her basement out to, house him. Again, she kept creating diversions so that Jared and PETA wouldn't be able to find her. She and Cy became fast friends. And basically, we find out that he had his own chimp, Ricky, who had passed away. So he was buried in the back, about 80% decomposed. And they basically trade. Tonka stays with him, and she picks up Ricky's remains, apparently. Listen, other than the head, because he had taken off his chimp's head because he wanted to keep the skull for sentimental purposes. Y'all, I can't make this up. I promise I'm not making any of this up. Next, we see Tanya's son. Now, we discover that over the years, Tanya, before she got into exotic animals, was a foster parent and had fostered over 75 children over the course of her life. Okay. One of the young babies that she adopted was a little girl who had fetal alcohol syndrome. And this was the first baby, I believe, the only baby that she adopted. During this baby's life, over the course of the baby's life, she gets pregnant with her only biological child, which is her son, right? And so we're meeting the son. And he says that he didn't even know what was going on initially. He didn't even know, but he is scared for his mother. And honestly, y'all, this is probably the saddest part. Well, no, it ain't the saddest part, but this is a really sad part of this docuseries. The idea that she got on national television and said she loves these chimps more than she loves her children. And he heard it and literally recounts it back to us during his confessional. It's so heartbreaking, because how does that make you feel as a child? That your mother chooses an animal over you. Like, she's a sick puppy. And I think a lot of these people that we meet throughout this docuseries have deep trauma wounds. Like this idea that everyone else is going to leave me, so let me get this animal, take him out of its natural habitat, keep him as my private pet, right? It's so despicable, y'all. It's so despicable and so unfair. When you see that most of these stories result in tragedy, I know it's cute. You know what I mean? Some of the baby chimpanzees or, whatever are very cute. But when you think about it in the scope of like their life and what they were created to do out in the wild. Like, they're losing out of that because of your issues with loneliness. Tonia, you got a whole husband, you got kids, you have everything that could make potentially your life full. And I think what's so sad about it is that at her ginormous age, right, her gargantuan age at this point, she hasn't been able to come to a place where she's satisfied with just herself. Outside of everything else, outside of the animals, outside of the kids, outside of the husband, there comes a point where you just have to be happy with you. And she hasn't reached there. And that's really heartbreaking. Again, the son says that throughout his entire life, he knew that the monkeys meant more to her than he and his sister did. But until she said it, he didn't have the words or the confirmation. But he said he always felt like he was last. The chimps were in the house since he was very young, and her life has always revolved around them. Baby, next, we go to Pendleton, Oregon, and we hear the story of Buck, okay? Buck was owned by Tamara Brogiati, all right, who was a diabolical master manipulator, evil lady in my mind. And I guess she's still living, honey. She said she wasn't doing no interviews, but baby, listen, she terrible, despicable. Her own child got on there and was like, yeah, I don't want to say nothing else. I don't want to say it. She's mean. She's mean. She's mean. Okay. And so we meet the liquor store owner first thing when we get to Pendleton, talking about Pendleton is a conservative town, yada, yada, yada. And talk about, people come in, they normally buy like a fifth, of whatever liquor they drink. And they said this heifer buys 6 gallons of the liquor she wants. I said, oh, she was a serious drinker, baby. A serious drinker by the gallons. And we find out that Buck was Tamara's chimp, right? Her husband had passed away and she got Buck wearing her husband's clothes. Buck is sleeping on the other side of the bed with her. He's the man of the house, honey. He's running everything. She made up this whole story that she was a primatologist, which I guess is a person who studies primates, and has all these degrees and everything. Baby, they said she went to Everest College in 1986. Everest College. I believe Tonia at this point is getting McDonald's. And I'm like, what's she getting all this McDonald's for? Is it for Tonka? And no, she's getting it for the chimps at size because, again, they are the best of friends. Now, what I want to know about all of this situation, Tonia got a whole husband out here in these streets. Where is your husband, Tonia? Mr. Tonia, why are you not helping her get her mind right? She needs to be 5150. I feel like she needs to be admitted into the people's place to get assessed because something is clearly not clicking on all cylinders for her. We find out that the son really does ride for his mama Tonia, even though, admittedly, he's second or third or fourth on her list of priorities. He says that he understands why she kept Tonka because of the fact that he is so mild-mannered. Apparently, when he was at size, he got beat up by all the other chimps. Apparently, he's just very docile and not, prepared to be around other chimps. And my thing is, the preserve, I thought, was for chimps that were domesticated. So I'm curious, but they said he got beat up. And so the son understands why Tonia is keeping him, but he's scared because what's going to happen to his mom. Throughout the course of the documentary, we find out that the proxy directed and called the lawyer because at this point, you really have to think that the documentarians are complicit. They know that she's violating a court order intentionally. They know that Tonka is alive down there in the basement. And so he calls an attorney to find out what her options are. So 1, she can throw herself on the mercy of the court. 2, she could unalive Tonka. And then, we don't have them. So, that would be true. And then I think the other recourse was something around, letting him loose or doing something like that, right? None of which I think are good options except for throwing herself on the mercy of the court and admitting what she did because, girl, it's ridiculous. Baby Tonia's wig at this point has got to be replaced. The wig is leaning left, right. It's diabolical. All right. The wig, we've seen her with 3-4 wigs. I just need her to replace this current one. The frizz, the I don't know. This shake and go is no longer shakeable. All right. It's leaning to the left again. She had 3 or 4 others. We didn't see them. I need her to get rid of it. It looks like a rat's nest on top of her head, and I'm disappointed in that. Again, we know that Tonka at this point is a fugitive that she's concealing, and so I'm curious about how it's all going to work out with the court, because they say she's subject to fines. She's subject to compensatory things, right? Penalties. However, if they get her in court for perjury on the federal level, that could carry up to a 5-year sentence in the Pinta. And I'm just saying. So now we go back to Pendleton and we hear the rest of the story about Buck. And so we find out when Buck wasn't delivering in the way that Tamara wanted him to, she went on this mission, honey, to really devastate his entire life and make it so he could never survive in the wild again. She castrated Buck. She started putting him in chain collars. She gave him shock collars. Like, y'all, terrible. We meet the nanny who took care of Buck, I believe, for 7 years. And she's got video of like him giving him the first piece of gum and all that. And she's the one really giving this account of the story. Again, Tamara's kids hate her, seemingly. It's just, I don't know. It's something about, I don't know what it is, y'all, but there is a common thread. There is a common thread with these exotic pet owners that take it to this level. These are not kids. They're not humans. Like, oh my goodness, always results in tragedy. She's moved him out of his bedroom that he's had his entire life and sends him upstairs and moves her daughter in, right? Tamara moves her daughter in. Because, I think she's on the edge already. PETA found out that she has Buck and he's roaming around the house freely and doing all these things. And we know that it's just not a safe situation. And so, at this point, she's like, well, I'll do over my, whatever body will they get Buck, right? It's never going to go their way. And so we find out that, again, the daughter moved downstairs into Buck's old room. Buck is now confined to just the top room, and he's there strictly for her companionship, just like Tonia and her monkeys. I just want you here for me and for my purposes and for my whims and for my desires. It's still weird Tamara had that chimp sleeping in the bed with her. I'm going to just set it right there, y'all. I don't like it. I ain't like when Tonia was talking about Tonka touching himself, and I don't like you sleeping in the bed with this monkey. It's gross. And you got your husband's clothes on him, Tamara. You're weird. Okay, so anyway, we move back, sister moves back downstairs. And so they had a protocol, right? Because Tamara was Buck, and Buck, I guess, acted right around her and her alone. And so every time they would let, him come out to go outside or do whatever, they would lock the downstairs where the daughter was. Well, one morning they decide that they're not going to lock it. Okay. And Buck gets out and starts taking chunks out of the daughter, out of the legs, out of the stomach. Oh my gosh. The son or brother recounting it present day is still shook up about it. Tamara had to call the police, but she was as calm as a cucumber, baby. Ain't no way you're tearing chunks out of my daughter and I'm as calm as a cucumber with all those guns you have in the house, blickies, excuse me, with all the weapons we've seen on the property, all that, you couldn't take them out. So she calls the police and says, I need an armed, sheriff deputy to come out here and the paramedics. My daughter's just been attacked by my chimp, blah, 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 blah. And so we know what's going to happen. They got to take him out just like they had to do with the chimp in the last episode. And here's my thing. It's such cowardice. You know what I mean? You bring these animals in, right? You put them in a domesticated situation. You expect them to bend. You done castrated him. You've locked him up in a room. You've given his old room to somebody else. Knowing most animals are territorial, I feel like she did this on purpose. Now, I don't know if she meant for her daughter to get attacked like that, but I think that she really just didn't want PETA to get him. And my thing is, and I've never been a PETA fan like that because they was throwing the blood on the fur coats, and I think that's ridiculous. But as far as these people with these animals in the houses, just there for their own personal amusement, it's sick, y'all. It's sick, and they do need to get involved. So anyway, Buck is unalived, and now nobody wants to talk about it. They said Tamra is evil and hateful, and I believe it. Just from the pictures we saw, just from some of the audios we saw, it's diabolical. I don't like anything about it. Okay. And so now, present day, back with Tonia, Eli, aka Alan Cummings, right? He's decided, he says he understands Tonia. He says, I worked with Tonka. I had a special place in my heart for him, so I know how hard it would be to give him back. But the thing of it is that it's not safe for him. It's not the best thing for him. So what can we do? What do we need to do? And so he decides that since PETA has already put up $10,000 to, in reward money for whoever can give them the whereabouts of Tonka, Alan will match that and give another 10,000. Okay. And again, he says, I have empathy for Tonia. I feel for her. I have compassion because I know this hard. Meanwhile, Tonia, Tonia already said last episode, she tried to run Jared over with her car. When she finds out that Alan Cummings did this, she's like, F him. He just wants the spotlight. PETA hired him to put some, a name behind all of this. And Tonia's miserable, honey. She thinks everybody is out to get her. And it's sad because Tonia, it didn't even have to be about you. This wasn't even your chimp. This was Connie chimp. Let Connie deal with it. But you want to come in and be Captain Sava because you have this weird obsession with these apes. Oh my goodness. But yeah, we know Tonia stays pissed off at everybody else. Tonia says she's screwed now. We see her in a confessional moment driving down the street. And she's like, I just don't know what to do. Girl, you about to go to jail. You're about to go to jail. And it's not like, I didn't know. No, girl, you knew. And you intentionally violated all of the orders that were given. You lied in court. You did everything, right? And so now we see that towards the end, Eric Good, the director, is like, we have a moral conundrum. He talks to the proxy director and basically is like, what can we do? What do we need to do? What can we do? And my thing is, as a director that's in this space, because of course we know he did Tiger King, he already doesn't have credibility in the community because they had to hire a proxy director this time to even get close to this story. And so my thing with it is, what is next? What's going to happen with his future documentaries if he's going to stay in this exotic animal lane? Because I promise you, nobody's going to want to work with him because, he turned over. At the end of the day, they were meeting with PETA, Eric Good, his team, and it's basically like, listen, yeah, she got him. She got Tonka in the basement. Here's where the bodies are buried, all of that. Listen, I don't know how Cy Viestra is not in jail yet. He said he's not scared. He's willing to go to war all about this. He doesn't mind doing the time. But I don't know how you steal $340,000 and you're not in jail yet. But I think, what if he turns on her? Tonia's already been exposed. Jared is going to go to town because Jared is on the same level of petty as Tonia, as we've heard from these conversations, y'all. I need to know. I need resolution, but also I'm scared of what's going to happen in the next episode because it just progressively is getting worse and worse and worse, especially with what's happening with these chimps when we hear these other stories. But yeah, Tonia needs some help. Maybe she can plead insanity, temporary. Well, it can't be temporary because she's been doing the same things this whole time. And she swears that Tonka is sick. Again, I'm not a vet. The proxy director agrees with them. And I'm trying to understand. The eyes did look a little yellow, but do all chimps' eyes look yellow like that? Is he jaundiced? She says, oh, this isn't fat. This is fluid around. I've called the vet and they think we need to put Tonka down. And I could see her killing Tonka. rather than give in to PETA, because that's just the mentality. You know what I mean? And I really, really hate that. It's so disturbing, y'all. But you guys drop it in the comments below. Let me know if you are watching Chimp Crazy because, baby, it is a wild ride. If you're still here, thank you for watching. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all of the things, and I will see y'all in the next video. Thanks for watching.